let's talk about some blockbuster headlines over the past couple of days with Chelsea's most high-profile player, you'd have to say, in Cole Palmer. There's lots of talk about him potentially leaving. Manchester United, his boyhood club. Could he end up there at some point? What's the perspective from the Manchester United side and maybe the Chelsea side on that as well?
I've been talking about this. There's an awful lot of noise around this. The fact of the matter is he has a long-term contract, 7.5 years left on his Chelsea contract. He's on a very good deal there in terms of his weekly wage. I can't see any way that Chelsea would let him go. But more to the point, Manchester United couldn't afford him right now. And they're not looking for any attacking options. I'd be surprised if Manchester United did anything in terms of incomings in this transfer window. They've got a new strategy. They plan to do it transfer window by transfer window. The last window in the summer was when they went big. They spent over £280 million on attacking players. The focus next summer will be on central midfield players, defensive central midfield players. Well, that's not Cole Palmer. I can't see how he would necessarily fit into the United squad right now. He is not a priority for them. It's pretty clear that Cole Palmer is a Manchester United supporter. It's pretty clear that his family are. I think there's some suggestion, and from the people I've been speaking to, some truth in the fact that he's maybe not settled as quickly as he would have liked in the southeast, and that he's still got a lot of family up in the northwest. So maybe there's a pull to draw him back there. But there's a huge difference between that and that player leaving Chelsea to go to Manchester United. Chelsea wouldn't let him go. Manchester United don't want him right now, so it's almost irrelevant what Cole Palmer and his family might want at the moment. And maybe something in the future. Maybe Cole Palmer would like to go to Old Trafford in the future. Maybe United might go for him in the future, but I don't see anything imminent there. United are focused on other areas of the squad, plain and simple.
They're not going to let him go, are they?
Look, I think behind closed doors, privately, Chelsea will be laughing off these reports because Cole Palmer is 22. He was player of the tournament at the Club World Cup. He's had injury problems so far this season, which have prevented him from being at his best. But his contract at Chelsea means that he will be a Chelsea player until he's 30. And he's 22 at the moment. Now, can I see him playing for Manchester United one day? Yes, because he's a United fan. And I think if you were one of his close friends and you were talking to him, he would probably say to you, look, one day I would like to play for Manchester United. But just because he grew up a United fan doesn't mean he's going to end up playing for them. I mean, he was a United fan, but he ended up at the Manchester City Academy.
Yeah.
And he was working under Jason Wilcox, I think, who was the academy director, who's now the director of football at Manchester United. And there are very good relations between Chelsea and Manchester United. So if United were really interested in signing him, all they would have to do is pick up a phone and call Chelsea. And I'm sure that would never happen. And if it did, Chelsea would just say, are you having a laugh? This is not going to happen. I think his profile in the game at the moment, how much would it cost to sign him? 150, 200 million pounds. United don't have that kind of money, and at the moment, they don't need him.
Also, as well, I just wonder what Chelsea fans make of this. If there was to be any revelation of truth in this, what would Chelsea fans say about one of their star player, a player they absolutely worship, potentially thinking and saying, I want to get to Manchester United, you know? Where, with all due respect, United are not at the same level that Chelsea are at the moment. So, look, I think it's tittle-tattle. I think there's maybe some words being said behind the scenes about what may happen in the future. There's family loyalties here. There's words coming out from the family. I don't see any substance in it from Chelsea's perspective or from Manchester United's perspective.
I think Chelsea just view him as being untouchable.
Talking about untouchable, let's go straight to Naples because Chelsea are facing Napoli, and we're going to be talking about Cole Palmer, and here he is, the untouchable Gary Kochel. Big Champions League game, Gary. We've just been talking about him, and he could be available for them, couldn't he?
Yeah, the thigh bone's connected to the groin bone's connected to the toe bone. And of course, the song doesn't go like that, does it? And it's complete nonsense because I don't think there is a bone in the groin. But that kind of sums up Cole Palmer's injury interruption. interrupted season. First of all, it was the groin, which kept him out for quite a while. Then just as he was coming back, he stubbed his toe at home in some kind of domestic accident. And then he was brought back gradually, managing his minutes because he's that important to the club. Played the full 90 minutes for the first time in a long time against Brentford, a couple of Premier League games ago, and then got this latest thigh niggle, which kept him out of Paphos in the Champions League and Crystal Palace at the weekend. But he is back in training, back in the Chelsea training ground earlier today. He will be on the flight out here as we speak, and he is available for selection again for the game against Napoli tomorrow night. So he's happy when he's playing. You've discussed there his future and the fact that it's very unlikely he's going to be leaving Chelsea anytime soon. We know the mood music is from the club, from him, that he's happy at the club. The fans love him, the ownership love him. Liam Rossini, I know for a fact, loves him, and Cole Palmer loves being at the club, particularly when he's fit and playing. And he hasn't had enough of that, has he, this season? So once he's back to full match fitness and coming in with the assists and the goals again, I'm sure that he'll be settling into having the rest of the season as a top season, beginning, hopefully, in the Champions League against Napoli tomorrow night.
Yeah, talking of Napoli, you were with them earlier on today, weren't you, Gary? And it's a match-up, isn't it? Liam Rossini will be coming up against a former Chelsea head coach in Antonio Conte. How's Conte feeling about facing his former club?
Well, really, both ends of the scale, aren't they, in terms of experience, in terms of big games, in terms of big names, in terms of things won. Antonio Conte, a prestige blue-chip elite manager. Liam Rossini is still at the very beginning of his head coach career. And Antonio Conte, obviously the last time Chelsea won the Premier League 9 years ago. Conte left 8 years ago. There's been 8 managers at Chelsea since then. And he's been talking about those days. And he's been talking about the modern day Chelsea, and some words there of he believes things are going in the right direction for the new Chelsea under the new ownership. He called them a fantastic club with a great vision and a winning mentality, and he believes that the young squad will continue to improve. But of course, there's a bit of a dig there as well, as we're in a transfer hour. He talked about it being a young squad, but he spoke about the expensiveness of many members of that squad. He said we'd all love to buy young players, but most of us, particularly here in Italy, can't afford to spend that much money on young players. So praise, but a little bit of a caveat to that as well. He needs to win here tomorrow night to really have any chance of being in the competition at all going forward. They're just in the elimination area at the moment. They've got a great home record in the Champions League, 1-2 and drawn the other. Their away form has put them in this position, so they've got plenty to play for. Have Napoli tomorrow night, and of course Chelsea the same. They need those 3 points really just to try and guarantee they don't have any playoff games in a busy February.
Gary, untouchable Cottrell, thanks for now.
The future of Cole Palmer, and Chelsea consider their star man untouchable amid links with Manchester United. As you can see, Carve's popped in to join us as well. Welcome along, Carve. So what does that actually mean? He's untouchable. Tell us more.
It just means that Chelsea would never sell him.
OK.
He's one of their key players. He is 22. He's got a contract until 2033. So by the time his Chelsea contract runs out, he'll be 30 years old. And Chelsea just view him as totally and utterly untouchable. I think they've got a few players that they would never sell. He is one of them. Go back to last summer. He was the player of the tournament at the Club World Cup. OK, he's had injury problems this season. There is no way Chelsea would ever sell him. And for what it's worth, I don't think Manchester United are interested in signing him at the moment. Where would he fit in at United? The price tag would make him totally unaffordable. So I think it is a total non-runner at the moment. Having said all that, there's no smoke without fire.
Well, exactly. So where have all these rumours come from?
He's a Manchester United fan. I think one day he would like to play for Manchester United. But just because he wants to play for them one day, it doesn't mean it's going to happen anytime soon.
Is he priceless, do you think, Dean? Somebody like Cole Palmer, absolutely priceless?
I wouldn't say priceless, but I would certainly say there are not many players in world football that I think have the attributes that he has. And I always think with someone like Cole Palmer, when you watch them, especially live, he's the type of player that he's a step ahead of everybody else. So it means when he is fit, and there's obviously issues with his fitness, that's pretty obvious with the levels of his performance probably over the last year, I would say. I know he looked great at the Club World Cup, but he's the type of player that when he's fit, he makes the game look so easy. He's a step ahead of most average players. He just is, and he does things that most players can't do. And also in today's game, when it can be really hard to break teams down, he is one of those players that can create and score goals out of nothing. So yeah, I mean, he's not priceless, but the price tag would be astronomical for him.
OK, not priceless, but irreplaceable then at Chelsea? If they lost somebody like Cole Palmer, where would that leave?
Yeah, I think right now, absolutely. But ultimately, he's not really fitting at the levels that they would certainly want him to be at. He would want to be at. So right now, they need more from him as the player that he is, so that there could be better players to come in for him at Chelsea. But you know, Carve says that Manchester United wouldn't be. Well, every team in the world should be interested in a fit Cole Palmer, who has still got all the best years of his career to come. He's actually still only going to improve and get better. So whoever does have his services, and is that why this Chelsea policy, when we all kind of looked at
criticise them,
looked at the size of the contracts, is that why they're in such a strong
That's
position?
one of the reasons, yeah, exactly. And it's not just Cole Palmer. For instance, Enzo Fernandez keeps being linked with a move to Real Madrid. But Chelsea are very comfortable. Whenever they hear these reports, they laugh them off. They've been laughing about this Cole Palmer to United story. I think their position is that it is just never going to happen. But I do still think that one day I can imagine him wearing a Manchester United shirt, because you know what it's like as a player. If you grow up supporting a particular side, you always have it in the back of your mind that one day I would like to play for them. But more often than not, that move doesn't materialise. I think you could make a case that one day Bruno Fernandes is going to leave Manchester United. Who knows, he could go to Saudi Arabia. Would they then be looking for a replacement? Would Cole Palmer be that player? If Cole Palmer was to leave, could Esteval maybe move to playing in the middle? But we're getting into the realms of hypotheticals. We have to deal with facts. And the facts are that he's a Chelsea player and there is no way Chelsea would sell him. Even though, of course, having said that he's a big Man United fan, he did go and play at the Man City Academy. And at the Man City Academy, I think he was working under Jason Wilcox, who's now the director of football at United. And United have very good relations with the hierarchy at Chelsea. So if there ever was any interest and they wanted to talk about it, it would just be a phone call and they could talk about it. But the answer from Chelsea would be no. And I don't think United would even ask the question.
But I think there's the easy links there, but there's probably two things that could only really change the situation, and that's Cole Palmer himself. Yeah. If all of a sudden he came out and said something, as players have done only in the very recent past in the Premier League, or Chelsea think, well, hang on, this injury is a bit more serious and it doesn't seem to be getting any better, and actually we've got this incredible asset that we're not getting what we need from him, and actually it might be better to cash in and bring in somebody that they think maybe can play more football. Because at the moment it's a worry, the lack of football he's been able to play, how often he's having to be rested midweek, for example, and he doesn't look happy, as if there is still something that's bothering him, whether that is because he does need surgery to correct the injury, but actually because there's the World Cup coming up and the rest of the season for Chelsea, he's trying to get through to that period. I'm not too sure, but there's just something not right at the moment with Cole Palmer. Yeah,
but I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but just finally on this, in terms of Manchester United, that would be a fantastic, potentially one of the best signings they could ever make, wouldn't it?
Again, when he's at his best, yeah, I think he's better than any player they've currently got. I think that the ceiling of his potential is much higher than anybody they've currently got in their squad. So it would be a massive upgrade for me, whoever eventually got Cole Palmer if he left Chelsea.
It's a long contract, unless he spies himself out of his contract.
Actually, it's just one thought that's just occurred to me is because they signed him from Manchester City, would Manchester City have inserted something in the contract that would give them first refusal, or would they have a say in whether he could end up at Manchester United? I think in the short term, what Cole Palmer needs to focus on is just getting 100% fit, having a great end to the season with Chelsea, and also focusing on the World Cup. Because, you know, when it comes to major tournaments, he had a pretty disappointing Euros. Even though he scored in the final, he felt that Gareth Southgate didn't use him enough. I do think this story has legs for another day. I can see a situation where Bruno Fernandes has left United. United are back challenging for the big prizes. They're back in the Champions League as well. They're looking for a Cole Palmer type player. And who knows, maybe his agents will start making a few phone calls and, you know, getting in contact with United, and it could develop from there. But from Chelsea's perspective, never going to happen.
Just, I know I said finally, but just very quickly, do you think Pep will look at Cole Palmer and just always think he was the one? Not that he'd probably ever tell us, but, you know, was he the one that got away? Yeah.
I think he almost said it, didn't he? Certainly when Cole Palmer was producing such incredible performances, goals and assists when he first went to Chelsea. I think he almost said that they've missed out because he's still got the best years to come, and that's, I think, what's so exciting for Cole Palmer and for the neutrals that get to watch him, and certainly as an England supporter, I think there's still a lot more to come from him. And really, Manchester City had him, and there should have been more of a route for him to get more games.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's turn our attention to Liam Rossini, because he's going to be holding his news conference in just over an hour ahead of their game against Napoli. We can cross there now and join our reporter Gary Cottrell, who's going to be asking those questions. Gary, I can't wait for this one. It's no doubt going to be a hot topic, isn't it? The future of Cole Palmer. So how are you going to pose that one?
Listen, he's done a really good start to his Chelsea tenure, hasn't he, Liam Rossini, on the pitch. Won 4 of his first 5, off the pitch, beginning to win over some of those doubting fans because of those results. Won over the players already, of course. Won over the media as well, Vicky, to be fair, because he does give an honest answer as best he can to an honest question. And certainly you're right, when he flies into a night-time Naples in just over an hour in this darkened stadium, answers questions ahead of this Champions League games against Napoli, will be asked about Cole Palmer. And I think he'll reflect and allude to what you've already discussed about in the studio, that Cole Palmer's happy at Chelsea, but of course would be happier if he could just get over and through this injury-hit season that he's had. Just 13 appearances this calendar year, just 2 full 90 minutes. That groin problem, which kept him out for a couple of months, then the toe problem, then he picked up a thigh niggle, didn't he, in his last 90 minutes, that Brentford game. They're managing his minutes so carefully that he wasn't risked against Paphos, he wasn't risked against Palace, but he was training today, he is flying in, and he probably will be involved in the Champions League tomorrow night. So I think Liam Rossini will say as soon as Cole Palmer can get back to his very best in terms of fitness, the goals, the assists, the string pulling, then he will appear to the rest of us what they say he is around the place, and that's happy to be at Chelsea.
What about the Napoli head coach? Obviously, that's in the form of Antonio Conte, former boss at Chelsea. What's he had to say about this game?
Yeah, a very different era, wasn't it, for Antonio Conte? What was it? Won the Premier League the last time Chelsea won the Premier League and the FA Cup, then left about 8 years ago. 8 managers or head coaches at Chelsea since. And Antonio Conte was alluding to that. Of course, he was there under Roman Abramovich, all the money that the club spent while he was there. But he says, listen, the new ownership are spending plenty of money as well. And he made the point the players might be young that are coming in, but they're very, very costly.
We are talking about a fantastic club with a great vision, with you breathe the mentality, the winning mentality. And now Chelsea is continuing to have the same mentality, the same desire to win. I saw that they made a great investment. They signed important players, young players. Every coach wants to sign young players, but if a young players pays 60, 70, 80, 120 millions like Casado or 130 million like Fernandez is not for all the club, especially in Italy. But they are doing very well. I think that they are building something important for the future, and I'm happy for a Chelsea fan.
So plenty of pounds sterling spent by Chelsea. The point made there by Antonio Conte. And talking about sterling, that's another question that Liam Rossini will be facing here quite soon. The future of Raheem Sterling. It looks like he will be gone finally from Chelsea before the end of play on Monday.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that right now. Thank you very much indeed, Gary. The second half of the Premier League show with Manchester United. After back-to-back wins against the Premier League's top two, United are riding the wave of their new manager bounce under Michael Carrick. But for the first time since Carrick took over, there is some bad news. Patrick Dorgu, who scored in both victories over City and Arsenal, is set to be out for several weeks with a hamstring injury. So this is a big blow, actually, to both Carrick and Dorgu, because he looked a player revitalised under Carrick, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, what a shame, because I think certainly in the Manchester City game, people might have thought that it wouldn't be Dorgu that would start the game, that Cunha would obviously play on the left, that Carrick might go a little bit more attacking in that sense. But they've obviously seen something in Dorgu, that he's not just a left back, that he's got a lot more to offer, and clearly he's shown that with the goals that he scored. And he genuinely looked like he was really enjoying that role. And why not when you can strike the ball as well as this? Just a stunning goal. Why does it always look better when it's off the bar? It just does. So it's a real blow, actually. But look, they have got great quality in that area, which is a bonus for Michael Carrick.
He's been a revelation.
He's been
a revelation since Ruben Amorim left. I think a lot of people had almost written him off as a Manchester United player, and then this change of position for him has opened the horizons. I think the kind of the career path of Patrick Dorgu has almost shifted on Ruben Amorim leaving. And actually, since Amorim left, he's a player who has shown his dynamism, has made the most sprints of any Manchester United player since Ruben Amorim left. So this is under Darren Fletcher and Michael Carrick, actually significantly more than any other player. Dorgu's workload as well, sprints, high intensity running and those short, sharp accelerations, his workload has increased by about 25 to 30% since Ruben Amorim left. So maybe that's contributed to the injury, the hamstring injury. Yeah. It's hard to point fingers, difficult, but he's a player who's certainly his workload has increased dramatically since Ruben Amorim has left the club. But what a player, what a dynamic player he has proven to be over the last couple of weeks for Manchester United. Yeah, so a big disappointment for him. But I guess, a door opens for another player, and that could be Cunha, right? This could be a big opportunity for him. It
is obviously a different type of player, but has shown, twice when he's come on, that he can impact games. He's got real quality. I think probably for Michael Carrick with Matheus Cunha, it'll be that all-round game. It'll be that work rate, because we know he can do things like this. We know he's got fantastic finishing ability, whether that's from distance or when he gets in the area, and he's very creative. But I think they'd want to just see. Dorgu was giving them everything. He was giving them the defensive side of the game as well, and I think Cunha would need to work on that a bit more if he's going to really fill that role the way I think Michael Carrick would want him to. Yeah,
it makes you wonder whether actually he will go with Cunha, because Dorgu was one of the players when they were out of possession who was kind of tucking inside and almost being an extra midfielder. Can you really see Cunha being comfortable doing that? Well,
unless he thinks of an Ahmad going to the other side and thinks Dalot could be a Dorgu at the right hand side. I'm not too sure. It depends how they see the balance of the side. But really, Cunha should. I think they've got Fulham at home. They should be going with Matheus Cunha to certainly go and attack Fulham and win the game.
If we look at, you've got Cunha, Dorgu and Mbeumo, they were all Ineos signings. Do you feel like, because that's been something that they've been criticised for, that they weren't getting the signings right, so arguably they look like they really are now?
Yeah, I certainly didn't have any doubt over Cunha and Mbeumo. I think they've already shown in the Premier League what quality they've got, and I thought they would fit into how Manchester United would want to play. And Dorgu's, I think, just been a surprise, certainly in the last two games, what he's been able to offer. And I think despite that injury, it's just obviously changed. The whole mentality of the place has changed. The style has changed, clearly. players have been given a fresh opportunity. So I wouldn't have thought it's going to affect the whole team, Dorgu missing. It's just really sad for him because those hamstring injuries are just horrible to try and get back from because you're always so worried when you start the sprinting that you've healed properly.
So it just kind of makes you a bit more of a nervous player when you come back, I guess.
Possibly. That's if you're quick. I wouldn't know. So I'm not sure. No, but you want to lose your pace. That's for sure. Anyway.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Well, Carrick's successful start at Old Trafford has come as no surprise to Scott McTominay. Now, McTominay played under Carrick in his first interim spell at the club.
He's such a great guy, Michael. I've got so much love and respect for him. Him and Kieran McKenna and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer helped me so much in that period where they were at Manchester United, and I wish them nothing but the absolute best. And the 2 results that they've had have been amazing, especially for me to watch. I'm very, very proud of all the players, and long may it continue. And them games and the big ones against Arsenal, Man City are important, but sometimes it's the games that are not so easy away from home against newly promoted teams or teams of so-called lesser stature, which are probably just as important. So for me, I'm looking forward to watching them and continuing to do well and wishing them all the best.
What has been key? What have you witnessed since Amarin's gone and Carrick's come in? Is it that conviction that we spoke about that sometimes players don't play with? What are you witnessing with these players?
Well, I think the change in systems helped the players that they have in the squad right now, and I think intensity, and bravery probably, certainly out of possession in terms of you're playing Manchester City and Arsenal, and they were going to press at times, and they were being brave in the way that they were doing that, and the numbers that they were getting forward when they attacked. That does take a certain amount of courage to do that, and I think that's what he wants his team, certainly the Manchester United team, to be, is a team that doesn't just sit and soaks up pressure, which they have to at times, and they did against Arsenal. That's why it was so hard for Arsenal to create anything, because they went and sat deep. But for big parts of the game, they were aggressive, and that's the difference.
Has it surprised you? Did it surprise? Because I think we had this conversation last week when they'd beaten City, we were sort of saying, if they play like that against against Arsenal, will they get the victory? And a lot of pundits were saying, no, they need to step up a gear. So did it surprise you that they got the win over Arsenal as well?
It doesn't surprise me that players can look like totally different players a week later. It doesn't surprise me, because we're human and we get sucked into that downward spiral and the feeling around the place, and new ideas, fresh ideas. All of a sudden, us as players, we're better than we were a week ago. That just doesn't make sense, does it? It's just purely because of just what he's saying, the attitude in training, freshness to opportunities for players. Looking back at what's important at Manchester United, it's been 2 weeks.
No.
The players look totally different. That's how weak we can be at times. It is, though.
I heard it here first.
The pressure's off, though, isn't it? The pressure's off. They're not expected to beat Manchester City. They're not expected to beat Arsenal. If it goes wrong for Michael Carrick, he could say, well, I'm just an interim, these players haven't achieved anything and I couldn't do it. If it goes well for him, then great, maybe I'm in for the job. The pressure's off the players because they're not expected to go out and win the league. All they've really got is to fight for Champions League football. So just that kind of pressure being relieved of Amorim leaving when the scrutiny was on them every week, when every result was a referendum on the manager's future, that's all gone away now. So they're able to play with a bit more freedom. It's only 2 games. Let's see how they get on against Fulham. Scott McTominay, Scott McTominay hit it on the head. He's been there at United through the last 10 years, and they've struggled in those games against as he called it, teams with lesser stature. They've achieved in matches against the traditional Big Six. It's those they've struggled to get victories. So this is their perfect opportunity to show that they're a changed team this weekend.
Yeah, and if he wins every single game that he's in charge, surely he's going to.
Time's flying. Welcome back to the Transfer Show. And we've got one of those transfer show phrases that we like so much, a striker merry-go-round. No doubt will continue for the last few days of the window. Revolves all around Jean-Philippe Mateta, Carve. What's the latest regarding this man?
Well, the latest is that there is a deal there to be done for Forest to sign him from Crystal Palace. They're prepared to pay £35 million. I think Palace would like £40 million, and they would also need to have lined up a replacement. I think from the player's perspective, he maybe feels that there is still time for another club to come in for him. I know people have pointed out the fact that we and lots of other people have been reporting that he wanted to leave Palace to move to a Champions League club or a club who are in the Champions League next season. And they look at the Premier League table and they go, why is he dropping down the Premier League table to go to Forest? Of course, Forest are in the Europa League. If they win that, they could be in the Champions League next season. But I think it's fair to say that maybe he's just waiting to see if somebody else comes in for him. But I think if I was Forest, I would be saying, come on, JP, you need to make your mind up. There's a deal there to be done. And I think Palace would be saying, Forest, you need to be offering more than 35.
Do you not see a strange situation here where why would Palace sell to a relegation rival? They're next to each other in the table. Why would Palace
You know
lose to
why?
Forest?
Because I think speaking to Palace fans, what they would say is Jean-Philippe Mateta, when he's playing well, he's a brilliant player. But in the last 3 months, I think he scored 1 goal from open play. So would we really be strengthening a rival? If we sell him to Nottingham Forest, maybe we can use that money to sign someone else. That is what some of the fans are saying.
I get it.
I'm not saying that's what Palace think.
Didn't Palace turn £65 million down for him from Newcastle in the summer as well? And now you're talking about 35, potentially £40 million. It's difficult.
18 months left on his contract, though, so the price is going to go down, right?
In the space of 4 months, meant that much? It's almost halved in value. Look, I think it's a strange one, but I totally get where you're coming from, Carve. I just think it's a strange one. And from Forest's perspective, they've just signed a player on loan that might cost them €40 million if they make it substantive in the summer. This is Lorenzo Luca, who's a centre forward. So, do they need another centre forward at the moment? Have they not got full confidence in the guy they've just bought? I just something doesn't quite add up for me. We'll see whether it happens, but something just doesn't click.
Carve, you mentioned that Palace will only sell if the price is met and if they bring in a replacement. A potential replacement could come from a team that's bottom of the Premier League at the moment.
Yeah, one of their options would be Jørgen Strand Larsen from Wolves. Now, I think the problem there would be the valuation, because earlier in December, Crystal Palace did ask about him. And they were told that he would cost at least £14 million. Palace have not made a bid for him, but he's the kind of player they may feel is a better option for them going forward. I think he's like 4 or 5 years younger than Jean-Philippe Mateta as well. If they were to buy him, he would still have some resale value as well. He's a player who can develop more playing at a club like Crystal Palace. So that is an option for them if they decide that they're going to do a deal to sell Jean-Philippe Mateta.
Rob, one other striker affected by all of this is potentially Joshua Zirkzee at Manchester United. Any movement there?
Look, I think it's very unlikely. I don't see Manchester United entertaining any offers for their players unless it's a big offer. And is there going to be big money that comes in for Joshua Zirkzee at this stage in the transfer window? I don't see that happening in truth. There is reported interest in him from Juventus, but we've been told there's been no club-to-club contact between Juventus and Manchester United over Zirkzee right now. And look, he has picked up a knock. I think Michael Carrick would like to use him for the rest of the season as part of his squad. I don't see it happening. I don't see... United would sell it if the right money came in. I don't see the right money coming in for him right now in terms of... I don't think that money exists amongst the clubs that might be interested in him right now. So I suspect he stays with Manchester United until the summer at least, and I suspect he plays some games as well.
Let's talk about a former Manchester United player, Rob, Angel Gomez, England international as well. Some news regarding him and a potential return to the Premier League. What can you tell us?
Yeah, that's right. Look, Wolves are interested in him, is what we've been told, but a deal isn't close at this stage. I mean, there's an awful lot of moving parts with Wolves, as we've just been discussing. So I think there's a bit of well, if we do that, what do we do about this deal, potentially, with them? They certainly like Angel Gomez, and the manager likes him an awful lot. And he was a key part of Lee Carsley's England squad. Not too far ago, but a number of Premier League clubs, I think, have looked at his diminutive stature and said, has he got the physicality for the Premier League? I think that's harsh. I think he's a clever player, a brilliant technician with the ball. The other slight difficulty is that he plays in a pretty unique role that we don't see a lot of here in England. He's got this extraordinary passing ability. He's a creative midfield player, but instead of playing as a number 10, he plays behind the rest of the midfielders and the holding midfield players. He plays just in front of the back four, in effect. Not many Premier League clubs play with that system. Would Wolves play with that system? Could they crowbar him into a different position? I don't know. But look, there's definite interest there. There are discussions happening. But as we understand it at the moment, a deal between Wolves and Marseille is not close.
Carve, time running out, but let's talk West Ham United. I know you've been talking until you're blue about Lucas Paquetá, but they could be welcoming a player that's very familiar with Nuno Santo.
Adama Traore from Fulham. Obviously, I think he's been told by Fulham that he can leave this month. And he's worked with Nuno before. Nuno knows him well. One of the things that West Ham have been lacking is real pace up front. OK, they're getting it with Somerville at the moment. They've got Bowen as well. But they need a little bit more. And I think he can bring them that if he completes the move there after his medical.
262 minutes he's played all season. That's less than 3 full matches he's played at Fulham. He's surplus to requirements. If they can get a deal done, I think that one will happen. Yeah, let's see what will happen with Adama Traore. Looks like he's on his way to West Ham United to reunite with Nuno Espirito Santo. That's it for the Transfer Show for now. We'll be back tomorrow with the Transfer Show at the same time at 4 o'clock. Coming up on Sky Sports News, though, it's the Premier League show. Vicky Gomersall is joined by former West Ham United striker Dean Ashton. Stay with us.